Hi, Rahul.
Hey JD, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. How are you doing?
Good, good. It's nice to connect with you. I know we've had a couple of short calls, but it's nice to kind of finally dig in and get to know one another and talk a little bit about, the things that we love and kind of what we're building.
Yeah, thank you for your time. And then thank you for joining us today. And then, Rahul, this is we are taking in continuation with our last pod with Andrew, the day one
Right.
when we announced, the Indian chapter, and with the Indian chapter, how we are taking the day one offerings to our community, and then helping
Right.
them out in terms of entrepreneurship learning and the programs, what we discussed with Andrew last time, the offering what we have starting from 23rd of January. So,
Right.
as I see, I mean, day one itself is a very disruptive approach or format, how it started in terms of, the community content and coaching exercises, to help the
Yeah.
new entrepreneurship and aspiring entrepreneurs or the maybe existing entrepreneur, very short term, the programs which can help them out. So this is what I see as a day one, and this would be really yeah, I mean, helpful in terms of the new entrepreneurs who are coming up to learn quickly and to fix or to implement certain processes and things like that and the solutions what we have. So, as I see, Day One is a very valuable partner with us here as an Indian chapter, and I see you as a with a very rich experience of as a mentor. Then you've been part of multiple, venture capitalist firms, and then and as an entrepreneur as well. And I would like to see your, experience in terms of, that I would like to you just please share your experience in terms of, your journey and the day one
Yeah.
and then offering that would be really helpful to us.
Of course. No, no, thank you. I would have never imagined myself here 20 years ago. I was just small background. I'm Gujarati. My parents came over in the 60s, 70s. My dad was an engineer. Um, And we didn't have too many older cousins or brothers in my life to kind of give me perspective on different stuff. So I grew up as a typical kind of Indian kid in the US. Um, and culturally, value wise, it's the same whether it's India or here, which is you go, you get an education, you invest in education, and ideally, you come out the other side with a professional job, doctor, lawyer, engineer, government. And the idea here is to like de-risk the rest of your life, right? Like, how do you get a stable paycheck that has high value that continues to go up into the right? And so that was kind of my story. I didn't want to be a doctor because blood makes me faint. I didn't
Mhm.
want to be a lawyer because I didn't like writing, and I was good at math and science, so I became an engineer. Um, and it took me 5 or 6 years of being a chemical engineer to know that I didn't want to do that. So, I'm 26, 27 years old. I already have this degree. I've been working in oil and gas, water, wastewater for a couple of years, and I always wanted to do something else. I knew that kind of there was something that the idea of being one thing for the rest of your life kind of made me nauseated. And the idea that, life is long, you have an opportunity to try and do a number of different things. I always had that entrepreneurial mindset, but was working in a sector, engineering, where innovation costs billions of dollars and takes 30 years. And so I was trying to figure out what to do next. Um, I did a couple of different things that were entrepreneurial in mindset, which is I went back to school at 28 or so, got a sports management degree, spent about 18 months or so learning about that new sector because I was leaving one industry and joining another industry. And
Yes.
I spent 18 months or so just building a network, finding people that would mentor me. They ended up being professors and former coaches at the professional and college level here in the US in basketball and football. Um, Started taking small internship opportunities, right? So the idea that, like, hey, I have a skill set that can translate. Let me find a project that takes 4 weeks or 6 weeks. More times than not, that was unpaid. So I was taking unpaid internships. And long story short, then I ended up doing a fellowship in India called the Indicor Fellowship. I was spending about a year, year and a half living in India,
Mhm.
building ultimate frisbee leagues for rural families, communities, adolescents. Um, that took me down the nonprofit route. So I came back to the US in 2011 and set up fundraising offices for large Indian NGOs like Magic Bus and eventually Teach for India.
Mhm.
Um, and then I got bored again. So every 6 or 7 years, there's a pattern where I get kind of bored, I guess, of what I'm doing, and I want to try something new. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, I entered the world of innovation. did a VC fellowship, began angel investing, began mentoring and advising individual founders in the New York City area, but also working with mentoring with XRC Labs and Mass Challenge and Founder Institute and Techstars and kind of organizations like that. And so we'll talk a little bit more about what my learnings were there and how that led to day one. But again, for that period in my life, it took about 12 to 18 months to do the same thing, start at the bottom, build a network, find peers, see examples of success, get mentors and advisors in my life, and just learn by doing. And eventually, after 12 or 18 months of tinkering on different things and different projects, you end up finding the partner. In this case, it was Andrew. After 18 months of exploring innovation, I ended up finding Andrew Hutton. He found me, and then we went on and launched Day One. But to summarize this kind of chapter is when we started Day One, I thought to myself, so many people probably at some level are dissatisfied with their jobs or they want to do something more. And it shouldn't take everybody 18 months and no salary to figure that out. And so I wanted to build Day One as almost a small microcosm of that journey that I had taken a couple of times in my life of instead of 18 months, why can't somebody join Day One and within 6 weeks have a set of peers, have founders, have mentors, have ideas, things of that nature. So
that's fantastic. I mean, because in a short term, person can learn and then fix, or it can be quick start, and that
absolutely.
is the need of an hour. If you look at it the way because last 2 decades, if you look at it, especially in technology sector, they are completely harnessing the technology to create a value out of it, and that value is something coming up very fast. Every day some new startup comes up in terms of bringing some new kind of solutions or in a different format as well. So that's quick learning is required, because if you look at it, now you don't wait to be a gray hairs to be entrepreneur. You just started as from the day one, and the day one maybe can be the best choice to help him out.
Look, and I'm in my 40s, right? So in our community, many times I think there's a lot of people at my age that are in Day One, but so many of them are younger, and I'm inspired by them to have the knowledge and the drive to try to build something at a young age is always inspiring. I have this theory that, if you don't mind me sharing,
please.
I believe it applies in the US. I think it also applies in India. I think it applies around the world. But if you think about, and I think Andrew, I say this to Andrew all the time, but let's call it 1950 to 1990, there was a belief in the system, which is you go, you get educated, you have one job for one company, you work 40 years, you get a pension, and that's there's a belief in the system that if you get your high school or college degree and you have good work ethic and discipline, you'll be fine, right? And then around 1990, I kind of think there's a second era where the belief in the system changes to belief in corporations. And the idea here is if you work 40, 50 years and you choose the right 3 or 4 companies to jump to, in the US, maybe it's Facebook to Google to Amazon. In India, it's maybe Infosys to, whatever. You can build an amazing life by choosing the first, 3 to 5 corporations that you want to work for. I now believe we're in the era where everybody's a corporation of one, and now there's a belief in yourself, because now trust is eroding in corporations and governments and systems. People now believe that the tools are out there for me. I can be a corporation of one, right? I can do my own media and PR through social media. I can build my own tools through no-code and low-code tools. I can find go-to-market growth hacks. I can slowly build out. And so this idea that you had to believe in the system, the country, for lack of a better word, down to corporations that were going to support you when you had skills. Now the fact is, if you develop those skills, you don't even need a company or corporation to support you. You just need 10 other people with the same mindset that bring different skill sets. And you can build small companies and agencies and consultancies. Honestly, today, in the matter of months, you could build something that's revenue generating with customers. And I think that's the big driver of why I believe what we're building at Day One has such a huge, huge potential. And I think so many people, after hearing things like this, get more and more interested to say, you know what, I didn't think I fit as an entrepreneur, but I actually do, because I have the ability to learn these things quickly.
Oh, yes. And this is very important, the way the Day One format, it's like, this entire programs based on the content, coaching, and the community. These are 3 major aspects of any journey where you can just,
Right.
In terms of, while you look at any other aspect of it, you can connect with these three attributes, and you can, look into your problem, or you can look into the, the kind of, the progress graph, what you're looking forward to achieve it in terms of your community exercise, or the business exercises you're trying to achieve. So out of this whole journey or whole experience of, because you are involved in day one, I mean, when you started, I think it's almost 2 years now, more than 2 years now. So what is the one common thing, what you see like in the new generation as entrepreneurs, what they look into, like, the quick recipe to make their business success?
Yeah. There's a lot of things, but I do believe when you distill it all the way down and you ask people beginning, middle, and end, community. As much as community is the thing that they are hungry for, that they're thirsty for, this idea that entrepreneurship is lonely, right? I say to this all the time, whether you're 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 years old, everybody at that point has built a life for themselves. And they have people, they have community. If they want to talk about sports or politics or cooking or travel or whatever, we all have a million friends, but we have the 20 that we want to talk to about sports or travel. When it comes to entrepreneurship or building an idea or building a side hustle, like any of these things, what everybody has told us is they don't have a community for that. It's hard for them to go to anybody in their life and find a pool of people that are equally as committed, because one of two things happens. And this happened to me when I did all my career changes. You go to your friends and family, and they love you. They love you so much, but they either tell you you're crazy, like, why are you doing this? This is ridiculous. Just stick with your normal job. Or they give you this unconditional love, like cheerleader. Oh, you can do it. Don't let anybody stop you. And neither of those things are really helpful for an entrepreneur. You want somebody who wants to listen to your idea, pick it apart, but then offer solutions on what they would use instead of that to give you more information to go back to the drawing board and do things. So people find the journey lonely. They find it hard. Right now, either nobody gets you, or there's other programs that are later stage where you're kind of paired with a specialist mentor whose job it is to kind of teach you with one specific thing. And it almost feels very transactional, because if that one thing doesn't work, they're like, okay, we'll go back, and whenever you're ready with something, maybe come find me, or I'll be going on somewhere else. But I think the interesting thing about day one is that the community, the way in which we've developed it, is that, you'll join a screen with 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 of people you don't know. But after weekly sessions, after monthly sessions, you begin to know them, right? You know about their background, you know about their friends, their family, their kids, whatever. You know about what they're building, what their job is. And then over time, you begin to build trust in that person, and you understand that, wow, this is a very smart entrepreneur who's probably going somewhere. We always do that, right? We always think the other person is smarter than we are. So you surround yourself around all these people. Eventually, they begin giving you feedback. And now you have trusted people who are experienced entrepreneurs or learning on their own right that give you feedback. And the beautiful part of this that everybody says at day one that makes it different is because it's an ongoing community, you know that those same people who say, JD, I think your idea is not going to work for this, are the same people that will be around 2 weeks later, 4 weeks later, 6 weeks later to see your next revision and then see if they would use that product. And so this idea that the line between your friends and your kind of startup community is blending into one person. And we've had so many people in day one say that, now when something happens in my life, that's the first 10 people I want to go to is the day one Slack and tell them, hey, this happened, whether it's startup related or family related. So I think that's the magic of day one, because the curriculum is world-class, the mentors are world-class, all of that can be found. But I think the glue and the thread that kind of connects everything that makes day one feel like a real trusted place is just the friendships that are made with people that people respect mutually.
Trusted, relevant, and then experienced people throughout the entire journey of this program makes it really a special program. And the one thing, again, I like it very much is like, this is a kind of a support for all entrepreneurs. I mean, whether they are funded, they are not funded, this is something very unique. I mean, in terms of support them in real sense.
Yeah, I mean, that actually, if there was one maybe talking point that Andrew and I really connected on, because you heard Andrew's background, very much venture builder, has the pedigree, the skill set. And I'm kind of more of the customer, which has tried a bunch of different things, wanted to be an entrepreneur, tried, failed, and then wanted to build a community to support those people. We just both realized that, for better or worse, the word entrepreneur or the path entrepreneur just meant venture capital for some people. So it had to be tech enabled. It had to be something that you're going to raise money for and build a big team. And, being Indian, I'm sure you resonate, and speaking to an Indian audience, like, so much of Indian ingenuity and jugaad is coming from the solving a problem, solving something that you see as a problem in your home, family, community, or jali, whatever that is. And so, that's entrepreneurship. And so it's not just somebody who's building the next Infosys, but it's also the street vendor who's building one cart and in 5 years now has 5 carts and maybe has a storefront one day. And so that idea of entrepreneurship, Andrew and I always wondered, why is the very polished, packaged kind of guide rail, the support, the system, the network, why does that only feel like it's there in accelerators and things down the venture capital route? And why can't day one create the same type of guardrails for entrepreneurs at the beginning of every journey, whether it's a small business, whether it's an agency, whether it's a side hustle, or the next, Airbnb or Google?
Yeah, that's make it a real support to those guys who would like to, achieve something in their as an alternate career who are starting, and if there's certain,
Because the actions are exactly the same. The actions, the behaviors, the mindsets, the skill sets, the things that you're doing, whether you want to build a software tool for HR companies at the top 50 companies in the world, or if you want to go out and sell pizza on the corner, it's really the same skill set, right? You talk to customers, you understand what their problem is, why the market isn't solving that, and then from that information, decide, okay, there's a specific product that doesn't exist. You build that quickly, cheaply, you see if they actually use it, and you just keep iterating. And that's the same whether it's software or brick and mortar or e-commerce or whatever that is.
Very well. And I'm seeing a lot of, excitement, among our community as well about these two programs once we start discussing with them, which is starting on 23rd of January. Both the programs, our community is very excited in terms of, that they will be having a session with, all across, global people who will be participating. They'll be sharing their experiences, and, they are also seeing a lot of, avenues to just crossbreed the solution in terms of, because some solutions are already available in some part of geographies. They are thinking that the scalability is something they are looking into that aspect of it. Some stable solutions are working. They would like to scale. They want to make their solution very much scalable in terms of, other geographies and things like that. So people started talking about, very free dimensions now while we're talking about these two programs, that people will be joining from global platforms. So this is something very exciting for our community, and I'm sure, we will be enjoying this entire these two programs for 6 weeks, and we'll be able to add a lot of values in terms of wherever they need a support in terms of mentorship or bringing in.
There's two things I want to say there. There's two things. One is, in our Slack right now, we have about 550 fellows from around the world. Approximately 40% are women, 40% are kind of mid-career, 40% are kind of what we call BIPOC, so biracial, indigenous folks. Strong presence in Europe, strong presence in Latin America. We're excited about the India chapter, boosting up the India numbers. But the one thing I want to point out to the audience listening to us today is a lot of people have this mistake that they think they already have to have an idea, right? I think I want to separate the entrepreneur from the entrepreneurial idea or the business. I believe most programs today, down the venture path or whatever, focus more on the business idea first and the entrepreneur second. And we flip that, and I want to explain to you why. So, or how. So if the business idea fails, then all of a sudden the entrepreneur doesn't have a home in that community. And our mindset is that the entrepreneur, whether or not they have an idea today, tomorrow, 5 years, 10 years from now, we're invested in building a community where that entrepreneur becomes a better entrepreneur. So I say all of this in that we've had so many applicants over the past couple of years say that, you know what, Rahul, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't have an idea yet. And I say to them, and I want to say to everybody that that's okay, because to the point that you made earlier, even joining with an idea that's in your head, that's not even something you really want to build, it helps you build the skills as an entrepreneur. And through the process, you will hear other people's stories. You're going to hear dozens, if not hundreds, of other people around the world building other things. And I tell you, those things will resonate with people. And that's how teams form. That's how co-founders form. That's how this idea that, hey, I've got 5 hours a week that I might be able to help this person living in Colombia who's building a catering software for people to do whatever. Like that might resonate to somebody living in Bangalore who has the same idea, but isn't at that stage in life to dive in completely. So what I want to say is, you don't have to already identify as an entrepreneur to join Day One. Day One is actually perfect for people who think, could I be, or should I be, or can I be an entrepreneur? So people even contemplating the idea of, should I even try to be an entrepreneur? Day One and the stories and the people you meet is like the best way to do that. So within Day One, we have people who are contemplating, that have an idea. We also have people that have already launched and built. And the reason this works, and I want to make one final point before you ask another question, is one of the biggest piece of advice is that I got in New York City when I was mentoring, advising kind of serial entrepreneurs who had built 2, 3, 4, 5 companies, people with yachts and jets and things like that. They always said that in the earliest stages, there's no need to specialize. You have the rest of your journey to kind of find that affinity group to build a marketplace that's B2B SaaS or whatever. In the earliest idea validation stages, it is actually most practical and most beneficial to be as sector and stage agnostic as possible, because then you get so much diversity of thought and perspective and a different, larger pool of people, because eventually you're going to specialize anyway. So why specialize now and cut all of those people out of your life? So that's another one of the philosophies on which we built Day One, and why we encourage people from different stages and sectors to join us at the beginning, because eventually you'll form those small groups and go on to the Y Combinators and the funding rounds and all that other stuff. But at this stage, it's important to have a diversity of thought and journey.
I agree. I mean, I'm 100% agree with your point. Like the way, let's make a player and then he can play whenever the ground says. I mean,
absolutely,
whenever he get a chance. I mean, so now he's a player, so he understand all the he's equipped with all the resources, tools, and necessary knowledge, so he can play. I mean, whenever he is getting a chance, or if he's already running. So I totally agree with you on this point, and this philosophy will definitely is going to shaping up our entrepreneurs in a better mindset, so they are not in hurry. They are not in hurry to make one idea or one thing to think to be disruptive or innovative from the day one. I mean, just like be entrepreneur, right. Be equipped with the necessary education and necessary as a skill set, so they can be successful in terms of their career. I'm totally agree with this point. And so I mean, this is something wonderful. I guess we touched upon the points what we have in terms of our programs which is coming up now. And I'm just wondering, I mean, if you would like to give more highlights for the program which is coming up for the leadership program which is coming up for the the existing entrepreneur. So
absolutely. Yeah, so we're actually running 2 6-week boot camps starting on January 23rd. One is the idea validation. It's our flagship program. It's what Andrew did at his job prior. It's really the main reason people come to Day One. It's this idea of like, how do you most effectively and efficiently manage the 5 to 10 to 15 hours a week you might have to get your side hustle or idea off the ground? That's our flagship program. That's what we're talking about right now. The other boot camp that we're running is actually in partnership with Gary Vaynerchuk's VaynerX. For anybody familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, he's a big media mogul that's kind of been working super hard over the past 10, 20 years. Very aligned with our values and kind of us with his around just hustling, doing all the small, gritty, unsexy work that you kind of have to do to understand your customer, be obsessed with your customer. Don't be shy or embarrassed to share your journey. The idea here that there's no real failure. It's just learnings. Success and failure, I believe, are kind of overrated terms. It's the next step. the next step, whether it appears like success or failure now, nobody knows till 5 years from now. So just keep doing, keep plugging away. He's an investor of ours. He's a partner investor, so I guess a co-founder in some ways. We are building, so we actually have a 6-week program where 5 to 6, I believe, of the top business operators at VaynerX companies. And so Vayner NFT, VFriends, VaynerMedia, his kind of chief heart officer, which is the people person who manages, the hundreds of, all the thousands of people at the company. All of them are going to do a weekly session with day one fellows. And so it's a separate program where there's a separate cost, but I'm sure we'll have links that kind of lead you to the India chapter, but also Vayner. But it's a 6-week opportunity to dive in with people deep in the Vayner community and get lessons and insights on how Gary has built kind of the culture and the values around leadership and operations of growing a company. Whether that company is one person or 1 million people, the values are the same. And I think personally, why I find this very interesting is that for anybody who follows Gary, a lot of his content on social media is around compassion and kindness. And for those of us who read business books, we find that some of our biggest business leaders weren't always the most kind and compassionate people. Sometimes you have to be a little cutthroat. And so what this course does, it actually shows people how to reconcile the two, how you can still have kindness and compassion and empathy, but then drive those values and energy into how to actually build and run a business, how to talk to your customers, how to understand your competitors, how to scale, how to build and guide a team. JD, for anybody who's been an entrepreneur before, it's one thing to have an idea. It's one thing to launch it. It's one thing to serve customers. It's a completely other thing to find and hire and manage an employee or 5 employees or 10 employees. That becomes a completely different game. And so we're very, very excited about that. That's going to be the first of, I believe, many partnership boot camps that we have in 2023. But we're very excited to launch with this one with such a great partner like Gary.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because Gary talks about a lot about the Web 3.0, and that's a very new thing in general since this Mark announced this Web 3.0 and Meta experiences, and that's taken as if you look at it in terms of that the technology perspective, how this is shifting from the existing technology to the new technologies. They are talking about it altogether a different experience, creating a different experience into Meta where anything can happen in terms of experience. Is not something restricted to the click based. Then nowadays all the transactions are click based. They are talking about experience based. So that will be a big shift and a big opportunity for the people who are looking into the new technology and kind of a new career in terms of those technologies to create that kind of solutions.
Absolutely. And I think what actually really plays in is I think people looking for inspiration join that. And then at the end of that boot camp, they're going to have an idea. Then they jump right into the idea validation boot camp that we have to now take that idea and say, okay, how do I test it and put it out into the world? So Avery, Andy, a lot of these people running these NFT and kind of blockchain projects at Vayner are going to be part of the boot camp. I actually went to VCon back in May, and I believe that was the world's first NFT ticketed event. And so I experienced it. I had my phone, I pulled up my wallet took me to a link, and there was a special kind of scan-in that was just basically connected to my NFT. So on the blockchain, it's recorded that I attended, the second and third day of VCon. And so pretty exciting. That is the core of experience. And then once we were in there were different kind of NFT creators in there as well. And it was really cool because you used your wallet as a way to kind of check in, register, log in, kind of do a head count of who's doing what. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, yes. And we have lots of, so far in our community, we have lots of queries in terms of, talking about like creative economy, how we can basically, look into the different technologies and what is the creative economy is all about, and, how non-technical people can participate in that, what is the portion for them, things like that. So I think more or less, I try to capture a few things. And thanks for sharing your thoughts and information and experience with us, Rahul.
Yeah.
In today's session. I think that this will be really helpful to my community, and as well as, going forward, we'll have a more chat about it. We'll talk about
Yeah,
more
of course.
details.
Excited. Looking forward to it. Obviously, as somebody with an Indian background and going back to India every couple of years, it's exciting. We've always wanted to launch an India chapter. We believe that that is probably the world's largest and quickly growing hub of innovation and technology in the world. So it means a lot to me personally, just the fact that I've done so much work there. I've got a background there, and I've seen the spirit. I've actually seen the spirit of the Indian diaspora here, but then
Yes.
also back home. And, the one thing I want to stress to people is like, look, I'll explain just again quickly with me. Like, I thought to be an entrepreneur, you had to be an inventor. 5-6 years ago, before I came into this world, I thought you either had to have a family business or you had to have some sort of money fell in your lap and then you built something with money or you invented something. And I learned in the past 4 or 5 years, it's not that. It really starts with an idea.
Absolutely.
It starts with a disciplined process of interviewing 5, 10, 15, 20 people, asking them the right questions in the right way that's focused around their problem. It's then taking that information and quickly putting something in front of them that solves that one specific pain point that might not seem very big. It's just one small thing. And so the short of it here is I learned all of these things, that there's actually a book, there's a roadmap, and you need people around you. And I think what we built at day one is the entire toolbox. It's the book, it's the classmates, it's the teachers, it's all virtual, it's relatively low cost, it's async and synchronous. We've built this for people with real lives. And so the one thing I would just want to stress to people is, like, for those of you listening today that already identify as entrepreneurs, a lot of this might just feel intuitive to you, and it might feel like, wow, this is a great program. But I really want to reach out to those people who in some way feel like their life is missing something. Either they're dissatisfied with their job, or they don't want to, they don't enjoy their manager or something they feel like, I want to build a side hustle, or, oh my God, I want to build a TikTok or a Instagram, or I want to, any of these things are small businesses, and they are businesses. And a lot of what we're teaching and what we've taught people are the same lessons that you can use to go from 100 followers to 1 million followers. It's the same thing. It's no different at all. And so I really want to encourage those people who think entrepreneurship is too big or too much for them to really reconsider and say, use this as an opportunity to at least give yourself a chance. And if at the end of it, you say, you know what, I don't want to do this, it's too much risk, it's too much kind of work and unknown, then that's fine. But at least you gave it a shot. Because the last thing you want to do is regret never taking that first step.
True, and this could run in a very similar format as well. It's need not to be, you need to be just run at your own, because lots of startups need a people with that kind of experience, that have that kind of maturity and the thinking and thought process. So a successful founder is looking for a co-founder, so that they are the complete core team or the extended team who has a maturity of this, this understanding then how to run a business. It's not simply that you have to run a business. It's anyway required for your skill set as a new startups are coming up to be, to enhance yourself and, to participate with that skill set, the new skill set.
Yeah.
As a long time that MBA were required. So maybe this is the new skill set, what is required.
Absolutely. We believe that. We believe that the entrepreneurial mindset and skill set is the thing that will get people to start generating revenue and income for themselves. And look, to your point, in the last 2 years, 500 fellows, they've launched more than 300 companies. They've raised more than 25 million for those who want to do that. So there's tons of opportunities to meet other inspiring founders from around the world. That might give you the confidence to keep running and kind of moving forward with your thing. So thank you, JD. Really appreciate this. Excited about the India chapter, excited about our partnership, and thank you for kind of bringing visibility to day one within India.
Thank you, Rahul. Thanks again for all your information, experience, and thoughts. And this will really help again, our community to counsel them and tell them what exactly, and then how they can take a more informed decision to be taking the the value out of these two programs and upcoming programs. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right. Take care. Have a good one.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.